You know that moment after making love when you're lying there together, and you wonder deep down if she was truly satisfied. You replay the night in your head, trying to read her subtle expressions, the sound of her breathing, the way she moved, and sometimes, even if she smiles and says it was great, a part of you still wonders if you really gave her everything she needed. You're not alone in that thought. Men rarely talk about it out loud, but this quiet question lives in the back of a lot of minds. Am I actually making her climax, or is she just being polite? It's not about ego, and it's not about some scorecard. It's about wanting to be the man who can bring his partner real, undeniable pleasure, the kind she remembers for days. Here's the truth that too few men hear. Satisfying your partner in bed isn't just a matter of luck or guesswork. Urologists, sexual health experts, and researchers have spent years studying what actually happens during sex, not in romance novels, not in movies, but in real couples, in real life. And yes, certain positions do make it more likely for a woman to climax, not because they're acrobatic or wild, but because they work with her anatomy and natural arousal patterns. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share the positions with the strongest scientific backing, and more importantly, how to use them in a way that keeps intimacy and connection front and center. By the end, you'll have practical, clear steps you can try, the kind that combine the physical with the emotional, so she feels turned on, safe, and deeply connected, while her body gets exactly the kind of stimulation that makes climax far more likely. If you want to give her the kind of pleasure that stays in her body long after the moment is over, it helps to understand what's actually going on inside. A woman's climax isn't random. It's a physical process, a buildup of sensation that reaches a point where the pelvic muscles contract in waves, blood flow peaks, and nerve endings fire intensely. For most women, that release is driven first and foremost by clitoral stimulation. The clitoris isn't just the small part you see, it's a much larger structure that extends internally, wrapping around the vaginal walls and connecting with the pelvic nerves. When that network is stimulated the right way, the body reacts almost like flipping a switch. The G-spot, which sits on the front wall of the vagina, about 2 to 3 inches inside, is another powerful trigger for some women. It's not a magic button for everyone, but for many, applying rhythmic pressure to that area, especially in combination with clitoral contact, can be the difference between pleasure and climax. Both the clitoris and G-spot connect to the pudendal and pelvic nerves, which send signals straight to the brain's sexual response centers. Here's where positions matter more than most men realize. Penetration alone doesn't always give enough direct stimulation to these spots. In fact, research has shown that a majority of women don't climax from penetration by itself. They need additional stimulation, either from hands, a toy, or from angles that naturally bring more contact between your bodies. The way you position yourselves can change the angle of entry, the pressure on the front wall, and the friction against the clitoris. It's not about lasting longer or moving faster, it's about lining up your bodies in a way that works with her anatomy, not against it. One of the biggest myths is that female orgasm is purely mental, as if it's only about mood or letting go. While arousal does start in the mind, the body's mechanics are just as important. You can think of it like music. Her mind writes the lyrics, but her body is the instrument. When you know how to play that instrument with care, skill, and attention, the song naturally reaches its peak. And the beautiful part is, this knowledge removes the pressure. You don't have to guess or hope. You can approach intimacy with confidence, knowing exactly why certain positions and touches make a difference. From here on, we'll look at positions that use this science to your advantage, starting with one of the simplest adjustments you can make to a classic. Missionary is one of the most common positions couples use, and there's a reason it's so popular. It's intimate. You can see her face, kiss her, read every change in her breathing and expression. That emotional closeness is powerful, but on its own, missionary doesn't always give the kind of angle that makes climax likely for her. The simple fix is to change the angle so penetration targets the front wall of the vagina, where the G-spot is located. All it takes is a firm pillow or folded blanket placed under her hips. This tilts her pelvis upward, making each thrust press more toward that sensitive area instead of sliding past it. It's a small adjustment, but for many women, it completely changes how intense the sensation feels. In this position, rhythm matters more than speed. Think steady, controlled movements instead of rushing. Hold her hips or the sides of her waist so you can keep that angle consistent. Keep eye contact, because visual connection fuels emotional arousal, which in turn fuels physical arousal. And don't forget your hands. Use them to stroke her thighs, her sides, or reach down to stimulate her clitoris while you move. That combination of penetration and external touch is one of the most effective ways to bring her to climax. I once heard from a man who'd been with his partner for over 15 years. They loved each other deeply, but their sex life had become a little routine. One night, after hearing about this small change, he tried sliding a pillow under her hips without saying much. He noticed almost instantly that her breathing deepened, her body tensed in the best way, and within minutes, she reached a climax she later told him she hadn't felt in months. That one adjustment reignited something for them, not because it was complicated, but because it worked with her body instead of against it. If you've never tried this variation, it's worth it. It's simple, it's natural, and it keeps all the closeness of missionary while giving her body exactly the kind of stimulation it needs to cross that line into climax. Woman on top is one of the most powerful positions when it comes to helping her climax, and the reason is simple: she's in control of exactly what her body needs. When she's on top, she can adjust the depth, the angle, and the pace in real time. She can rock her hips forward for more pressure on her clitoris, or shift slightly to target that front wall inside. Instead of guessing, you're giving her the wheel and letting her steer straight toward the kind of stimulation that works best for her. There's also solid science behind why this position is so effective. When her pelvis presses against yours, the base of your shaft or your pubic bone can rub directly against her clitoris with every movement. That repeated contact, especially when she's leaning slightly forward, can create constant stimulation while penetration is happening. It's like combining two forms of pleasure at once, which greatly increases the odds of her reaching climax. The key here is communication without pressure. Encourage her to move in the way that feels best, even if it's slower or more of a rocking motion than you might expect. You can place your hands on her hips, thighs, or lower back to support her balance, but resist the urge to take over the movement. This is her moment to set the rhythm that matches her body's buildup. For many men, this position also delivers a confidence boost because you can see her pleasure up close, every sound, every change in her expression, every subtle shift in her breathing. And for her, there's empowerment in knowing she's fully guiding the experience toward what makes her climax possible. It turns sex into a shared performance where both of you are tuned into the same goal without any guesswork. When a couple gets comfortable with this position, it often becomes one of their go-tos, not just for the physical sensation, but for the openness and trust it builds. She's showing you what she needs, and you're giving her the space to take it. That's real connection, and it's a kind of confidence that carries well beyond the bedroom. Spooning is one of the most overlooked positions when it comes to helping her climax, but it can be a game changer, especially when you combine it with clitoral stimulation. Lying on your sides with you behind her, both of you can relax into each other without the strain of holding up your bodies. This makes it perfect for longer sessions or for couples who want comfort without sacrificing connection. From this angle, penetration is gentle and easy to maintain, and your hands are completely free. That means you can reach around and stimulate her clitoris directly, either with your fingers or a small vibrator if you both enjoy using one. Because the movement is slower and more controlled in spooning, you can keep a steady rhythm while giving her the exact kind of external stimulation she needs. This position is especially helpful for older couples or for anyone dealing with back, hip, or knee discomfort. You're both supported by the bed, which means no awkward pressure on joints, no racing to keep up a fast pace, and no distractions from strain. Instead, you can focus entirely on her responses, the way her hips shift, the sounds she makes, the tension building in her body. The pacing here is naturally slower, and that can be a big advantage. Slow penetration allows her arousal to rise gradually, while the constant clitoral contact keeps her right on the edge until she's ready to let go. You can even pause completely at times, just holding her close while keeping that stimulation going, letting the anticipation build. And then there's the emotional side. Spooning keeps you chest to back, your arms wrapped around her, your breath against her neck. That closeness creates a sense of safety and intimacy that's hard to match. When she climaxes in this position, it often feels more personal, less like a performance, more like two people deeply in sync. For many couples, spooning becomes their lazy Sunday morning position, but don't let the relaxed pace fool you. With the right touch, it can lead to some of the most intense orgasms she's ever had. Standing from behind can be an incredibly exciting position, especially when you use support to get the angle just right. When she leans forward, whether against a wall, the edge of a bed, or a sturdy countertop, her hips naturally tilt in a way that changes the path of penetration. Instead of going straight in, you're now pressing upward toward the front wall of the vagina, which is where the G-spot sits for many women. That shift in angle can create a deeper, more intense sensation that some partners absolutely love. Support is the key to making this position both pleasurable and safe. She should have something solid to lean on so she doesn't feel like she's holding herself up entirely. Your stance should be balanced, knees slightly bent, so you can move smoothly without pulling away or bumping too hard. This stability allows you to keep a consistent rhythm, which is far more important for building her climax than speed alone. It's worth saying that not every woman enjoys deep penetration, and that's completely normal. For some, it can be uncomfortable or even painful if the angle is too aggressive. That's why communication in this position is essential. Ask her if she wants more depth or if she'd rather you keep it shallow and slow. You can also adjust by changing the height of her hips. A a small pillow under her stomach if you're on a bed, or having her stand taller if you're using a countertop. Some couples find that combining this position with clitoral stimulation, either from your hand reaching around or from a toy, makes the experience much more intense. The internal pressure from the penetration plus the external contact can bring her to climax faster than either would alone. When done with care and attention, standing from behind can feel adventurous without losing intimacy. It's about balance, giving her that thrilling full sensation while making sure she feels completely comfortable and in control of how deep and how fast you go. Positions can make a huge difference, but they're only part of the picture. A woman's body often needs more than penetration alone to reach climax, and that's where the other half of the science comes in. Everything you do before and during sex that primes her body for that peak. Think of foreplay as warming the engine before driving. Touch, kissing, oral, playful teasing, all of it increases blood flow to her genitals, heightens nerve sensitivity, and triggers her natural lubrication. This isn't just about making things feel good in the moment, it's about preparing her body so that when you finally get to penetration, every nerve is already awake and responsive. One of the most powerful tools you have is also the simplest: communication. Just asking what feels best right now can change everything. It removes the guesswork, and it tells her you care about her pleasure as much as your own. Some men worry that asking will break the mood, but the truth is, for most women, that kind of attention is deeply arousing. It builds trust, and trust makes it easier for her to relax into the moment. Once you're in the flow, rhythm and pacing matter more than raw speed or force. Find the tempo that makes her body respond. Sometimes that's slow and steady, sometimes it's a mix of deep and shallow strokes. Edging techniques, where you bring her close to climax and then slow down just enough to let her body cool slightly, can build an intense release when you finally let her cross over. It's a way of stretching out her pleasure so that the orgasm, when it comes, is stronger and longer. And then there's emotional safety, something you can't fake. When she feels truly wanted, not just for her body but for who she is, her mind and body align in a way that makes pleasure far easier to reach. A woman who feels admired, safe, and deeply desired will respond more fully to touch, and her body will often reach climax faster and more intensely. That's why the most satisfying sex isn't just about learning techniques or positions, it's about creating an environment where she can let go because she knows she's with someone who is fully present, fully engaged, and fully invested in her pleasure. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's that great lovers aren't born, they're made. Nobody comes into the bedroom already knowing exactly how to please their partner. The men who become skilled are the ones who pay attention, who listen, who try things and learn from the results. Every couple's chemistry is unique, and your job isn't to be perfect, it's to stay curious and keep discovering together. When you try these positions, don't treat them like a checklist or a performance test. Go slow. Notice how her body responds. If something feels amazing, keep doing it. If it doesn't, change the angle, change the speed, or move to something else. This isn't about ego or proving anything. It's about enjoying the process together without rushing toward a finish line. Because when sex stops being about pressure and starts being about connection, everything changes. She feels more relaxed and open. You feel more confident and in control. And the bond between you grows deeper because you're not just having sex, you're sharing something intimate, playful, and meaningful. Great sex has a ripple effect far beyond the bedroom. It boosts your confidence, improves your mood, and strengthens the trust you share as a couple. It can turn an ordinary relationship into a passionate, lasting partnership. So take what you've learned here and make it your own. Experiment, laugh together, find out which of these positions feels best for both of you. And if you've had an experience, a breakthrough, or even a question you want to share, drop it in the comments. Let's make this a space where men can have honest, respectful conversations about pleasure, intimacy, and connection without shame, without judgment, and without holding back. You have the tools. Now it's time to use them, not just to help her climax, but to make your relationship stronger in every way.